Yeah, at the end, it's about increasing business, getting more loyal customers as well. So there are different reasons why to do this. And of course, if you can upsell or if you can sell more by adding not only the payment part, but also lending or insurance or other components into that experience, then you can upsell and you can also in that create a loyalty component as well in your. So you can, if you look at the case with insurance where you might have a water damage in your apartment or in your house, then of course this needs a quick process and of course you also need funds both to make sure that you can fix the water damage. But at this case, you can also, as a insurer, how can I then add a lending component into that, saying, okay, maybe you also want to do this other project and then offer this on top of that.
Well, Fredrik, thank you so much for joining us here in Copenhagen. It's great to see you and great to meet you.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you here. So let's just start the conversation. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So yeah, I'm Fredrik Neumann. I'm a country manager for Worldpay, based in the Nordics in Stockholm. So I'm driving the whole business for Worldpay in the Nordics as a focus.
Right. Okay. And we've heard about embedded finance quite a lot recently. So I'd love to listen in your own words, what's embedded finance for you?
So embedded finance, it's kind of a buzzword today. It's something that actually exists already. It is something that we already use today and have been using for a while. So in an example where you today you go with a taxi and you want to pay the taxi, then you today can use your app to actually pay for the taxi instead of paying with cash or with a card machine. And that is already embedded finance to start with. So it already exists in our lives. And we have started to frame this as embedded finance, starting with embedded payments, I would say.
Right, so this element of invisibility of the payment process in other type of activities.
Yeah, it's kind of, it starts with that you actually are digitalizing a lot of the payment, from cash becoming more where you use your phone or you use applications. And you can then see that with the digitalization, you can embed payments and finance into different solutions.
Okay, but we've been using payments outside of financial services in apps, and we're all familiar with Uber or with Volt or Deliveroo, these type of services that have the payment functionality embedded into it, and we've been using that for a while. So why is it that embedded finance is becoming such a hot topic right now? What's happening that is just expanding and bringing so much momentum into it?
I think it's, there are two drivers. One is the digitalization, which with digitalization, you have more possibilities. So embedded finance is kind of a umbrella word to a lot of things that is happening in this business. So digitalization, where you can do and combine a lot more of different services, not only payments, but also lending and other financial solutions and products. That's one thing. The other thing is that with also the digitalization, you can focus much more about enhancing the customer experience. Mm-hmm. So these are the two drivers where you can see that embedded finance, as the word is saying, you embed financial solutions into something else, which doesn't need to come from a bank or from a financial institution. This can be offered like in the case of a taxi, the taxi company is not a bank or something, but you can embed financial products and solutions into something offered by someone that is not a financial institution.
Right, so then if I understand what you're saying, then digitalization has been a main driver just because this is all through a technological platform that enables the information to travel from the bank to the non-bank industries that they can offer banking services without being a bank.
Yeah, exactly. So you can say that with the open APIs, with that you can now simply integrate different types of functionality that was not possible earlier. You can now then develop a customer experience that is more seamless than what you could do before. And secondly, you can add different components into that customer journey in that. And like example, if you today buy something, you buy a TV or something, you can then, of course, while purchasing that, you can offer other things like installments and lending and these type of solutions while you're buying that either TV or if you want to you need a new battery for your car, etc. You can then add more as a car dealer. You can actually add much more in that process where you can then offer a more expensive battery, which maybe is more environmental, etc. And with that, you can both give the consumer the possibility to buy something else, and you also then have a proposition and more loyalty in that.
Right, so I think we've been seeing companies almost racing to see who can offer the most seamless and the most frictionless experience. Would you say that embedded finance is becoming so popular because precisely the competitive arena is now taking place at the customer experience level?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's all about the customer experience, and with digitalization, with the COVID crisis, we have seen a much quicker development into commerce or e-commerce and digitalization. So we know that we need to develop these type of solutions, or the merchants and the dealers need to do that. And this goes cross industry. So you have also the insurance area where you also can include a lot of these type of new possibilities.
All right, but then the question I have is, embedded finance, it's in the word, we're talking about financial services, but why should businesses outside of finance care about embedded finance?
Yeah, at the end, it's about increasing business, getting more loyal customers as well. So there are different reasons why to do this. And of course, if you can upsell or if you can sell more by adding not only the payment part, but also lending or insurance or other components into that experience, then you can upsell and you can also in that create a loyalty component as well in your. So you can, if you look at the case with insurance where you might have a water damage in your apartment or in your house, then of course this needs a quick process, and of course you also need funds both to make sure that you can fix the water damage. But at this case, you can also, as a insurer, look at, okay, how can I not only pay out something to kind of fix the damage, but how can I then add a lending component into that, saying, okay, if you anyhow will change something in your apartment, in your house, maybe you also want to do this other project, and then offer this on top of that, so you can then both make sure that you have funding for your fixing the water damage, but also having then money to actually do the other project that you might think of also that you want to do.
Okay, so then if I were to be a business owner and I hear this, and I would say, well, yes, of course, that it's a very compelling business case of why I should be thinking about embedded finance. what should I be concerned about in terms of challenges when thinking about implementing embedded finance into my business?
Yeah, I think you need to start by looking at who are your customers and what do you actually want to achieve. I think it's important to make sure that you give first the customer a great experience. So in the case of doing something, if you can reduce friction, if you can take away some paperwork, if you can reduce that by introducing more of a digitalized solution. On top of that, you can then look at, okay, how can I also in that case offer additional financial products to be able to help them and offer them something that you can't offer today based on your, let's say, analog process versus the digital process that you then will introduce.
Right, and they say that innovation waits for no one, right? So I guess this means that if I operate in an industry that traditionally has not been very innovative and perhaps where digitalization has not fully reached its full potential, then that means that I would not be able to benefit from all the developments that are happening on the embedded finance side.
Yeah, I think you need to be a bit outgoing in terms of be a bit interested in looking at this. This is a very exciting space, and I think this is where, let's say, this is no longer something that only the banks should do. Also, other companies that are not today maybe involved in the financial sector should also benefit from this by the fact that today there are then platforms and solutions where you can easily integrate that in a digital way.
Okay, then let's switch gears, and I'd like to know a little bit more about Worldpay. Tell us what does Worldpay do and what's its core value proposition?
So Worldpay has existed for a long time, and we are today the world's largest acquirers. We do a lot of things in the payment space, and digitalization is part of our DNA. We work a lot with helping our customers to add initially the payment component into the architecture. So this is one piece of things, and in that it's not only about the acquiring where you can take payments. You also need to make sure that you can also send payments to either your customers or to your suppliers. So we have a lot of different components in there, and the scenario that we are looking at now, where we talk about real-time payments and real-time money transfer, that's a very interesting topic, because we are building also infrastructure to make sure that you as a merchant can send money to your customers and suppliers within 30 minutes, which means that they will have their money through the bank relationships and through the connections we have with Visa, MasterCard. And this is very powerful, and that is the infrastructure together with the payment piece that we can enable.
Fredrik, a moment ago you mentioned that Worldpay is the world's biggest acquirer. But for those of us out there that might not know what's the role of an acquirer, can you explain that for us?
Yeah, sure. So we have a relationship with Visa and MasterCard, and what we do, we have a license to make sure that we can handle the payment piece for Visa and MasterCard when merchants want to handle payments. So we simply collect the money from the card holders and make sure that the merchants get it on their bank account for Visa and MasterCard.
So if I understand correctly, embedded finance is the umbrella term that under which many of the services that Worldpay provides fall into. And can you tell us a little bit more about how Worldpay is thinking about embedded finance in general?
Yeah, exactly. It starts with payment that we can integrate into the embedded finance. You can also transfer funds, and then adding then on top of that lending capabilities, installments, and there will be more. You can also add, if you're an insurance company, you can add an insurance components into this as well. So you can have a flow of different things that you can offer in a seamless way.
And where do you see the biggest growth potential in these new developments?
It's I would say in all areas. I mean, if you look at where you digitalize more or less in all aspects today, you go from paperwork to actually doing it digital. Mm-hmm. And this is where there is a big movement now, especially due to COVID. A lot of companies have understood that we need to actually go into the digitalization of the solutions, and with that there is a big potential both to reduce cash but also to make the processes and the offerings much more digital.
Okay, so as we see, embedded finance is really gaining a lot of momentum. Everyone's talking about it. What do you think the world will look like 5 years from today when embedded finance is no longer a trend and it's just basically embedded everywhere and it's part of the mainstream activities from all industries?
I think you will see much more services which we do today. It takes a long time for sign up to services. To do a lending product today might be quite complicated today, looking at different countries around the world. I think tomorrow you will see a lot much more which can be done without the analog process that you have today. So tomorrow you will have a combination of things. It's not going to be just you can only pay, or you can only do the lending piece, or you can only sign up for an insurance. I think you will have much more integrated solutions where it is digitalized it all, and that in a combination, depending on what type of business you drive, you can then include this in your offering. So not only banks or financial institutions will be able to offer what we today define as financial services. So you can, an insurance company, a grocery company, or a taxi company, or a car dealer, they will all be able to offer these type of financial services through platforms like the Payrix platform that Worldpay acquired recently, where we have a way for us to enable then our customers to offer that type of solutions in a digital way.
All right, and then one last question, because this is clearly changing the rules of the game in some way, and then basically the payment behaviors in the market. Do you see any externalities that either businesses or banks or even customers need to be aware of once these become part of their everyday life?
I think you still need to make sure when you have when you run a business that you really think about the consumer, the customer you have, and make sure that it's relevant to the services that you're offering. So it's important that you look at creating that bond with your customers is so important, so that you make sure that it really is something that makes sense to offer and include in the customer experience. So I think the focus on the customer experience and how you offer something that it really makes sense from a consumer perspective and from a customer experience.
Right. Well, I think it's great to hear that finally the whole customer eccentricity in the industry is no longer just words, but it's actually now been translated into tangible, practical applications. So I think it's a very exciting future that you paint for us, and I'm really looking forward to being able to fully, as a consumer, enjoy the benefits of embedded finance.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited myself. It's an interesting time ahead with a lot of these digital APIs, which sounds boring, but it's something that will enable a lot of companies to benefit from financial services in embedded and digitalized way.
Absolutely. Well, Fredrik, thank you so much for joining us, and you've given us an exciting future to look forward to.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks very much.